It was almost exactly the race I had visualized. Then came another Western States body blow, this time a literal one. I had just left the mining encampment called Last Chance and was descending into Deadwood Canyon, alone on a sandy trail dotted with rocks. I was lengthening my stride, making up time, when I stepped through a gap in two rocks that was covered with small oak leaves. I heard a pop and ripping, like paper being shredded or clothes being torn, and then I felt it. Beyond the jolt of pain was the awful knowledge. I knew I was screwed. This wasn't a roll or even a sprain. This was torn ligaments. It was mile 44, 56 miles to go. So that is a account at the beginning of the 2001 Western States 100-mile ultra endurance race. And it's about a incredibly famous, incredibly successful, maybe one of the best ultra runners in modern history, Scott Jurek. And it's from his book, Eat and Run, My Unlikely Journey to Ultra Marathon Greatness. And it is a absolutely fantastic book. Like I mentioned, Scott Jurek is a dominant force in the sport. His resume is, absolutely incredible. It includes things such as 7 consecutive wins at the Western States Endurance Run, winning twice at the Badwater Ultra Marathon, winning the Spartalon, which is a 153-mile race from Athens to Sparta, 3 consecutive times. He held the American record for 24-hour distance on all surfaces at 165.7 miles from 2010 to 2012. And it's just a constant. What the book is about, first and foremost, is it is for sure a history of ultra running. The other thing the book also is the transition from being an omnivore to a vegetarian to being a vegan, and how he believes the plant-based lifestyle is what enabled him to have all this success, all these victories. I read the book a little bit differently, and I think I read it because one of the things that personally I struggle a lot with is, I think, the mental side of running, the toughness of it. What do you do when you have to push through those moments and keep going? So with that being said, there's 3 things in particular that I took away that I want to dive into. And the first one is under a theme which I'm going to call preparation. No one wants to win more than I do. What I've learned in ultras, though, is that where I finish is merely an outcome. Even though I reach for it with every sinew and tendon and muscle of my being, what matters more than victory is what I do to reach it and how. Have I prepared? Am I focused? Have I been treating my body with intensiveness, eating healthfully and with care? Have I been training properly? Have I pushed myself as far and as hard as possible? Those are the types of questions that have guided me in my career, and that can guide anyone who seeks something, which is to say everyone. You want to get that promotion at work, or the girl, or the guy, or the personal best in the 5K, of course. But whether you get what you want isn't what defines you. It's how you go about your business. So what Scott's talking a lot about is that it's almost even before the race starts, before he even gets to the starting line, before he even makes the travel to the race itself, there's this aspect of preparation. And he talks about it a lot throughout the book. And it isn't a theme that I don't think he pulls out a lot, but what he talks about is that he believes that he can win before the race starts because he knows the preparation that he's gone through. And he knows that he's been diligent in his preparation, that he's done all the right things, that he's done things he thinks other people aren't doing. And all these things give him that confidence that when things get tough, he can rely upon these things because he knows he's done the work. And then he can sit back and trust in the work. And so I think it's a really interesting angle that he talks about a lot, which is if he's honest with himself and he knows that he's done all that he needs to do before he shows up there, it gives him this blanket level of confidence that allows him to go out there and accomplish all these things when crazy things happen, like, for instance, tearing ligaments halfway into a 100-mile race. The second interesting topic he talks about, I call this one the mind lies. So in Scott's words here, it's easy to put someone on a treadmill and read their VO2 max or take their blood sugar reading and say it's low. It's not possible to measure the mysterious workings of will. In Lore of Running, Dr. Timothy Noakes promotes an alternative theory about how our bodies endure exercise. He believes that a central governor in the brain evaluates the athletic task and determines how many muscle fibers should be recruited. In the case of a run, the brain judges how far away the finish line is compared to the past training runs and sets a pace that, barring accidents, the body can maintain without injury. Push too hard, and the brain ramps up sensations of fatigue and pain, trying to fool you into slowing down. Once you understand all this, you can reprogram yourself to go much faster. Noakes teaches us to stop giving credence to negative thoughts that are only related to how close we are to the finish line. I think it's a really interesting theory. It's worth reading more about, it's worth learning more about, but I think from personal experience, I get that too. The way I think about it is, how do you reprogram yourself from thinking of a race, a 5K race or a 10K race or a marathon? How do you go from the idea of this is a race versus this is just a long, hard training run? And what I take from this passage is that the default of your brain is making you think it's another long, hard training run. And the trick is, how do you break through that and say, no, it's time to go do something differently and get your brain to operate on a different level. The final is this idea of learning how to endure pain. So in Scott's words here, ultimately Koros teaches us that ultra is an exercise in transcendence. He explicitly defines it as a test of metaphysical characteristics as opposed to inborn athletic gifts or level of conditioning. Only a continuous run of 24 plus hours will do. As a runner has to face the whole spectrum of the daytime and nighttime and be able to continue. Doing so, he or she will prove that he or she can run beyond the effectiveness of genetic gifts and fitness level, as these elements will have gone from the duration of time and the muscular exhaustion. While respecting the athleticism of such events, he disqualifies 50-milers and stage runs from the category of ultras, as they will favor athletes who are well-trained and gifted. The true ultra runner must endure sleep deprivation and complete muscular fatigue. Only then can he or she find energy after the fuel is gone. But what he's really talking about is this idea of you gotta learn what the sensation of pain and fatigue feels like, so you know that you can endure through them. And I think what Scott's talking about here is that if you can face these things such as extreme fatigue and depletion of glycogen, etc., and realize that you can push through them, automatically now your expectation of what's possible completely changes. And so I think a lot of what I take from this passage is that maybe the journey of having mental toughness isn't something that just happens automatically. It's actually a process of getting close to that boundary, maybe failing, maybe next time slightly breaking through, and each time you incrementally realize that you can do something different, and then keep building, and it's a cumulative effect. And so if you keep making small wins in your mental strength, you're at the end of the 5K, you want to slow down, but you don't for the last 30 seconds. Well, that all is going to keep building up over time. Then you start believing in them, and then back to Scott George, you can start almost reprogramming your brain to go for it again. So those are some of my takeaways from reading the book. Again, this is an absolutely phenomenal book. It's probably a book that many of you have either read or heard about. Read the book for the stories of ultramarathons, for sure. Read the book for information on a different way to eat, whether it be as a vegetarian or as a vegan. Read the book for, the holy moly guacamole recipe. All those are fantastic reasons to read the book. But I would also think about, how can you read the book as, what can I take away from what Scott has done that will enable me to be a little bit tougher in the next race that I go do? As always, see you at the finish line.